Very good, Adam. Very good. Glad to hear your voice again.
Absolutely. It's good to talk to you as well. All right, let's start with the big topic of the year, I guess. It was the front cover of ESPN, the magazine, this week. It's been a little bit of a rough year in college sports as far as scandals and Calhoun and Bruce Pearl and Cam Newton and obviously what's going on at Ohio State with Tressel and the players. What do you make of all this?
Well, it has been a rough year in college sports, no doubt about it. I look at it and I see problems, but I see promise at the same time. I mean, it doesn't help when the team that wins the football national title is under investigation and beats a team that is now under investigation after the title game, and it doesn't help when a team wins the national title in basketball that's on probation. So, those are bad things. But I think the NCAA has got its arms around what's going on better than it has probably in a long time, and has showed a willingness to go after some big-name schools. And I think that, what they did to USC last year, I think they're right on top of what's going on with some of the third-party stuff that's now crept into football from basketball. I think Bruce Pearl's going to get hammered this summer, and I think Jim Tressel and Ohio State are going to take a shot as well.
You took part in that NCAA enforcement experience, whatever it was, a week ago. We had one of your buddies, Dan Wetzel, on to talk a little bit about that. But let me get your vantage point. What did you learn? What did you take from all that up in Indianapolis?
Well, I thought that the interesting thing about it, the cool thing was to get to go through the committee on infractions part of things, which we've never been a part of and haven't really seen how that works very well before. Most of us have a pretty decent handle, I think, on how investigations go, and they're not completely dissimilar from investigative journalism. So, there's some similarities there, but it's harder for the NCAA than it is for reporters for the newspaper.
Sure.
They're much more procedure heavy. They have to give schools, courtesy notice. Hey, we're going to come and interview your people, which is just an invitation to circle the wagons. There's just they got a lot more hoops they need to jump through. But, I think while the process is cumbersome, it's time consuming, I do think the process is probably the best that we've got right now. I'm not saying that the rule book shouldn't necessarily be reformatted and the penalties shouldn't be harsher and maybe some things like that. But I think we have a better understanding of what it takes to be on the law and order side of the NCAA.
ESPN.com's Pat Forde joining us here. It's Neft at night on 97.1 The Fan. Let's talk specifically about Tressel because that's what we care about the most up here. I saw you wrote a column that the right decision for Ohio State would be to get rid of Tressel. It's an opinion shared by many. So let me ask you, do you think I know what you think they should do. What do you think they will do?
Yeah, maybe an opinion shared by many, but I don't think it's shared by the people that are making the decision.
No, it's not.
They seem pretty supportive. I mean, Gene Smith came out this week, and said that they're supporting Jim Tressel, and I think that's been the feeling all along. And good luck. I think Tressel's going to get hit hard personally by the NCAA. We'll see what happens with that. But if you're going to go to bat for a guy that lied about what happened and basically ended up playing ineligible players for a full year, I think you better be prepared to take some licks. And the reason, really, one of the things behind what I wrote, Adam, is I wanted Ohio State to put its money where its mouth is. Ohio State has always, proclaimed with a lot of pride that they do things the right way, that, yes, they win big, but they also operate a clean program, and now that's not the case. So are you going to just put up with not running a clean program as long as the guy wins? We'll see. I'm thinking that the proper answer, if Ohio State wanted to back up its talk, that we're better than the SEC, we don't do things like they do down there, we're not win at all costs, would be to get rid of Jim Tressel, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
All right, let's talk about some happier things. College football landscape in 2011 is obviously going to have a completely different look. The Pac-10 is now the Pac-12. The Big 10 or 11 is now the Big 12 Part 2, I guess. The Big 12 is different. What do you make of all these changes? It's going to be a fun college football season, I gather.
It really is, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be kind of just fun and interesting to see, Nebraska playing Big 10 teams and see, Colorado and Utah mixing it up in a two-division Pac-12 and having a championship game there, and and see what happens with the Big 12 -2 or whatever the heck they're going to call the conference. That's going to drive me crazy, and I'm sure everybody else. Now, I mean, we can't have two completely nonsensically named conferences, can we? I mean, we already got the Big 10 that's 12, and we can't have the Big 12 that's 10. Can we? I don't know.
Long time ago, it was the Big 8, right? So they'll call it the Big 8 plus 2 is a lot more positive vibe than the Big 12 minus 2, right?
Or just call it Texas and Oklahoma and 8 teams that do what Texas and Oklahoma say.
There you go. Talking to ESPN.com's Pat Forde, joining us here on 97.1 The Fan. We're about that time of the year, a couple weeks away when the preseason mags start coming out. And I know you always keep an eye on college football. Who are teams, maybe one or two teams you have your eye on? I know it's May, but who do you have your eye on really early on?
Yeah, it's very early. I mean, everybody's Oklahoma, and with good reason in terms of what they've got come back out. I had a horrific tragedy this week with Austin Box, their starting linebacker, dying. And, I mean, that's, just a horrible thing. What happened there and happened with a player at Alabama. And, you hate to see those things happen. But, on the field, Oklahoma still should be very, very good. I think Oregon is going to be very good again. And I think they're the best team probably in the Pac-10. In the SEC, I think it's all in the SEC West again. I think that you're looking at Auburn, or I'm sorry, Alabama, LSU, maybe Arkansas there. And the Big Ten, I don't know. With Ohio State's season, it's just going to be so bizarre to see, that season unfold. And who else in the Big Ten is going to be good? I don't know. I'm not sure there's anybody that I like, as a national championship contender there. And same with the ACC and the Big East. So, I think that you're just really, I'm looking at a handful of teams that I really like and then a bunch of teams I have questions about.
One of your recent columns as well, 10 things you can't wait to see in college hoops this coming season. Lots of good stuff to look forward to on the hardwood as well.
Absolutely, including in Columbus, Ohio. I think Ohio State's going to be dynamite. The decision by Sullinger to come back makes them an instant national title contender again. North Carolina with the guys that stayed in school there. Kentucky with Terrence Jones coming back and all the freshmen they have coming in. I think this is going to be just a higher quality college basketball season, Adam, than what we saw last year. I think last year was about as low a dip in quality as we've ever seen because it wasn't a great year of freshmen coming in, and everybody else who had been good had already left. So I thought that that it was a pretty close to a nadir in terms of talent, and I think that's going to change in a big way this year, so I'm looking forward to that.
Once again, joined by ESPN.com sports columnist Pat Forde here on 97.1 The Fan, and let's close with this. You're not in Baltimore this weekend for the Preakness, but you're still following it, so for those horse folks in Columbus or those just turning on the TV tomorrow at 6, what should they look for? What's going to happen?
Well, it's going to be really interesting. Whether I don't think Animal Kingdom's good enough to win this one as well. I could be wrong. The one thing in his favor, he's a lightly raced horse. They tuned him up and got him on top of his game for the Derby. And usually, if you're on top of your game in the Derby, you're going to stay fit and on top of it 2 weeks later. I don't like the fact that he's not coming to Pimlico until Saturday morning. But I think he can be beaten. I really do. Now the question is who's going to beat him. Shackelford ran a great race, but got away with slow fractions as the leader of that race. Is he going to be able to do that again? I don't know. Mucho Macho Man. I'm still not a believer in Dialed In. Some of the new horses coming in, I like Dance City. I kind of think it's going to be a bit of a free-for-all. I'm looking for a very exciting race with maybe 3 or 4 horses in great contention coming down the stretch. I'll stick with Shackelford because I picked him in the Derby and he ran a big race there, but it's going to be tough for him to win.
Pat, great stuff as always. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Neftorius. Have a good one.